Hello again, and welcome to the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast. I am Caleb, the Old Pass, along with Josh, the Bama Jaybird, and we're just hanging out, having a good time, recording a podcast before we
Yeah,
record a podcast. We've been talking for what, 2 hours? Hour
yeah.
and
This would have been one of those good days to hit the record button and
a
pull some clips out of. But
yeah,
yeah,
we'd have had a
man,
podcast before the podcast today for sure.
that's right.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, it's been good though. We were talking about sales a little bit before we started, and man, I'm telling you what, like I was so excited last week because it felt like my sales were just like taking off big time. I had like 3 or 4 days. It was just like through the roof for me. For some, it's probably just like chump change, but I was like, man, this is doing really well. And then, you hit a day and it's like $40, and it's like, wow, how did this happen?
Yeah.
You go from a day where you got like $600, and $500 to like $40, and it's like something doesn't add up. I don't
Welcome
understand
to
it.
eBay. That's
Yeah,
exactly
that's it.
that's the
Ride the
way.
waves, man. You got to ride the waves. It's like the stock market. It's up and it's down. It's up and it's down.
Oh, that's the way eBay does. I remember I had a really good string last year. I'd have like $300, $500, $700, hit $1,000 one day, and then had a day of nothing. And it's just like, how, but it's the way it goes.
you know,
Definitely goes.
yeah, measuring your success on eBay by looking at the daily report is about like trying to measure your success on a diet by weighing every day.
Yeah, that's
You
don't
know,
do it.
yeah,
Give it a month.
you better off to compare month to month. If you're really
Yeah.
working hard at something, if you're working hard at eBay, you should be able to compare month to month and hopefully, right, see some
Yeah.
progress and some growth. If like you said last week, if you stay consistent, same way with the diet, you better off to give yourself a few days to accomplish something before you go check again.
Yeah. Speaking of diets, Tanya told me yesterday, she said, "You want to start walking with me?" And I'm
Oh
like,
man,
"I'll go walking with you." We walked one time around this loop up here, and it's right at a mile, but it is like uphill this way. Then you level out and you have a couple of little hills, and then there's a major hill to walk anyway on the way back. And we was like huffing and puffing. I didn't realize how bad out of shape I was,
yeah,
but we're gonna start walking, and because I need to lose some weight, man. I've
yeah,
let myself go. Like I'm the biggest I've ever been, which
yeah.
ain't
Me
big
too.
to say, but
Me
yeah,
too.
it's just time to shed a few pounds, and I ain't gonna try to look like no Scott Steiner, like kiss
Well,
him
we
up.
know that. We know that. That's
I ain't gonna be doing all that, but I'm gonna try to at
call
least
you Big Papa Path.
pop a path. There you go. Hey, that's hey,
Oh
you just
man.
gave me a title for the welcome to Big Papa Path. Oh, with Scott
Oh
Steiner's
man.
headdress on.
Talking about walking, it's like sometimes you walk around like everything's fine, but deep down inside your shoe, your sock slid, it's sliding off. It's like everything's not good.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Casey's after me all the time about that. She brought that up. I think it's either Saturday night or Sunday night. I can't remember now if it's last night or the night before. But she'll hit me up every so often. She'll be like, "You want to start getting up and working out with me in the mornings? Just work out for like 30 minutes." I'm like, and then it comes the next morning, and I'm like, well, whatever, probably not. No, I'm not feeling it. And then she don't even get up, and I'm like, see,
Yeah.
it's like, why do you keep threatening me with this stuff when you won't even get up? It's like
Or
you
like
get
you
up 10
told me,
minutes after you're supposed to get ready for work, and you're gonna get a 30-minute workout in.
or like you told me a while back, she's like, "We really need to start eating healthier." And hey, you want to get some ice cream?
Yeah, well, it's like, and I mean, I get what I get, but like, she's the one always pushing for it, and like, she sold me out in the Dollar General yesterday. Man, we was in there, and I was picking stuff up real quick that we needed for dinner, and in between church, and she was sitting out in the truck with mom, and suddenly she's in there, and she's like, "I need to get some yogurt," and I was like, "Okay, what do we need yogurt for?" And she carries it for lunch sometimes, but I knew they didn't have those at Dollar General. She
Mhm.
said, I need some for a recipe. I said, "Oh, a recipe? Like yogurt?" And I was like, "Okay." She said, I need one of the big ones, like a big vanilla, just a big tub of vanilla. I said, "Okay." We walked over there. They didn't have any. They discontinued it at our Dollar General. And so as we're headed back over, I said, "Well, what do you do?" She said, "Well, Mama sent that recipe for the scones." I said, "Oh, I thought we said 2 days ago we were going to start doing like you're like we're going to do better." And she said, and we're behind like my buddy that plays piano. They happen to be in Dollar General. They're ahead of us in line. And she goes, every time you go to make something, I don't say anything. I don't discourage you. I don't say anything about it. And every time I get the idea to want to make something, you just make it like I don't need to do it. And I was like,
oh,
she wasn't real loud or anything, she was like angry, but I was like, sorry.
Classic marriage.
I've crossed the line here.
Oh, no, that's
you're about to make like 24 scones and we're going to feel obligated to eat them. It's like,
I'd feel obligated to eat them. I just eat them.
Yeah.
I'd be like, go ahead. Yeah, that sounds good.
And that's our problem. Carb, sugar, we love it. Butter.
Well, see, I can totally do without bread. Like I don't have to have light bread. I don't have to have rolls. I do like good homemade biscuits. Now I'm gonna just be honest. I do like that. But if I had to quit, okay, I probably could. But Tanya has been making her homemade biscuits out of the cast iron skillet with, heavy whipping cream, making it with like the shortening instead of, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just know what I see. But they are unbelievable. Like they're so much better than a canned biscuit or what most people make biscuits. Yeah. They're just unbelievable. And I'm like, am I going to have to quit eating that? And I'm going to have to quit eating the stuff that's good? Because we did this a couple of years ago, and her brother was making, when he lived with us at the other house, he would come in of an evening and he would make a healthy version of whatever he was cooking. So if it was spaghetti, he would use, what is it? The spaghetti squash for the spaghetti. And it was just like, yeah, this is good, but boy, it sure ain't like normal,
Yeah.
I can eat it and I know I don't want seconds.
That's like Casey with the zoodles, the zucchini noodles, it's like, she'll be like, well, we can do that. And, it's really not much. I'm like, not much different. I'm not even a spaghetti lover. She's the one that loves pasta. And I'm like, if I had to eat soggy zucchini noodles in order to eat spaghetti, I would just not eat spaghetti.
Yeah, give me a
I
bowl.
would just choose to do something else. That's to each their own. And I like zucchini, but I don't want it as a wet noodle with spaghetti sauce on it.
Oh, I totally agree. I like it in its proper place and its right time. Speaking of food, so this is really taking a turn. But speaking of food, we went to okay, I got to preface this, right? My niece was like, "Hey, we're going." Her and her brother and dad and his girlfriend was going to a restaurant in Cookville, about 40 minutes away from us. And she said, "Young's go with us," and we're all going down there. And it's kind of like assumed we all just go, right? So we're like, "Yeah, we'll come." So we all go down there, and it's a Chinese place, which we can't go to our Chinese place here anymore because they failed the health inspection like bad, cockroaches, mice, all that good stuff. And I'm like, yep, we're done until you tear the restaurant down and start over. But anyway, we went down there and she said, yeah, they have crawfish at this place. And I'm like, really? I'd never heard of a Chinese restaurant doing that, but I was like, okay. And you can believe this or you cannot believe this. I grew up in the country on the creek. I was at the creek like all the time, catching crawfish, crawdaddies, we called them, and I've never ate them in my entire life. We used to catch them. We had jars full of them and never ate them. So she comes back right with a plate. The plate was about this big around, and it was this high with crawfish. I'm like, are you serious? You're going to eat all that? And of course, by the time you break them open, you pull them out, it's like a little shrimp. Yeah. So never had them. And I'm like, okay, I'll try them. She gets me one out. I'm like, it tastes like shrimp, basically. Maybe just a little bit different, but it was good. You don't like them?
Just not a fan. It's too much work.
And it was a lot of work. It was
depending on the time you get them, sometimes they taste like, it's kind of like, how if it's a big catfish or like yellow catfish, it's got that kind of muddy, dirty, like it's just got a different flavor. I mean, I'll eat it, but it's just not as good. It's like a good channel cat, or a blue cat. and a
Yep.
small one, like 2 or 3 pounds.
Yep.
There's just a huge difference in that. So to me, it's that way. Like I've had them where they were okay, and then I've had them where they were just so like literally like almost like muddy tasting, really. Like you
Really?
can almost taste, like it's just a stronger flavor,
Right.
Like I
So
just,
probably the bigger ones.
yeah,
Probably
I
the
don't
bigger
know. That's
ones.
just
Yeah.
not my thing. I mean, I like steamed shrimp and boiled shrimp and stuff like that, but I don't like. I mean, I don't want to have to work so hard to eat it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
just
love shrimp, but now I'm allergic. So I
oh
found
man,
that out. I found it out. I was eating something that was made here that was fish, but we also had shrimp. So it was all together at one point,
Mhm.
and the fish was making my mouth swell up and my throat swell up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot be allergic to fish because it's one of my favorite things ever. Well, it wasn't the fish. Come to find out, it was the shrimp. So now I can't eat shrimp. And I actually went to Captain D's one time, got me some just, batter dip fish, whatever, and it did it to me. Not
Hmm.
as bad, but it did it.
It's all fried in the same oil.
It's all fried in the same oil.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
surprised the crawfish didn't do it. Being a
well,
shellfish,
it's a freshwater.
just
So
it's the fresh versus salt for you.
I guess because I was kind of concerned about that too. I was like, well, I'll try one, and if it don't bother me, I'll
I
give it a
mean,
minute.
isn't it
And
still considered a shellfish?
I think I'm not really sure.
I'm not positive either.
I
I
mean,
mean, I would assume it would be.
it's like a baby lobster, so you would think
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing, but I don't know what it has to do with, but it didn't affect me at all.
Hmm.
So I was like, well, that's good to know I can have that. I just can't have the shrimp.
Yeah.
It's my brother-in-law's girlfriend. I'm gonna say this very carefully. My brother-in-law's girlfriend, she had a bunch of shrimp, and it was the kind, that they're like the big, nice, plump,
Yeah.
really good shrimp. And I'm sitting there going, this ain't fair. I used to eat shrimp everywhere I went,
Oh
like
man.
every time I went, and then
Yeah.
didn't have it. But oh well, that's the way it
Yeah,
goes.
I like them too. I get them. I buy shrimp not real often because they're not real cheap, but I'll buy them every so
Right.
often. And it's way cheaper to cook them at home than it is to go to the restaurant and get them. I'll tell you
Get
that
about
much.
7 or 8 shrimp
But,
for $25. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but I'll get one of those bags. It's got a couple pounds in it, and we'll
Yep.
have fried shrimp. I'll do the batter up, and man, they're just so good when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
fresh like that.
I
But
agree. I just ain't been able to experience that for about 4 or 5 years now.
I did something for the first time yesterday. I'd never had. I mean, I've done a lot of different ethnic type foods. I've done a lot of different Mexican dishes. I've never done like a chimichanga, the fried chimichangas, and
Chimichanga.
so yeah, that's what I'm gonna call it. I know it's chimichanga, but that's how everybody says it down here. So that's why I said it that way.
Chimichanga.
Uh, yeah,
You
I
eat
mean,
that
I can I
creek?
can I can actually speak Spanish correctly. I mean, like enunciate correctly for the most part, except I can't roll an R. But I just say
Oh,
it like
really?
people say it. Yeah, I took lots of Spanish.
Huh.
Yeah.
Tanya can't do it either. Like, when we go to the restaurants, she points. She's like, "I want that."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, "That's the arroz con pollo." And she's like, "Yeah, chicken and rice, please."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah." But she
I
can't
gotta
roll.
roll that R though, and I can't roll an R. So the best I've ever been able to do is make it's almost like a D sound. That's kind of what the professor told me, Dr. Longton I had back in college, just to kind of substitute. And I mean, we had these exercises to try to train yourself to be able to do it. And he said some people just are never able to develop it. He said it's one of those things language wise that when you're an adult, it either will or won't come natural. But as a child, it's like because you hear it's like it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
As you're learning language when you're learning Spanish for those. So, didn't happen naturally for me.
So you're not the Bama J Bird. But I can't
No, no, no.
I can't do it
Yeah,
today.
I can't do it. The best I can do is get my what's it, the uvula, the little waddle thing back there. I can get it to move a little bit sometimes, but it's not my tongue doing it. So it's it
Oh, I
sounds
just
it sounds weird. I don't know.
we
It
need a
is what it
YouTube
is.
video of you teaching
No,
Spanish. That's
no, 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 no. So I avoided
we
that. I was afraid that was going to be, because I was a history. I intended to be a history teacher, but I was a double major history and science for a long time, and so I had all the science credits I needed when I finished. I went to school in Mississippi. We're like 45 minutes from the Mississippi line, so I finished college over there. I started here, finished over there, my first degree. And anyway, when I was doing all that, I had enough credits to get my science certification as well in Mississippi. So I went ahead and got it. because that made me more employable, having that on my resume
Yeah.
or whatever, having that licensure. But in Alabama, they required, I think, 18 hours of classes, which is like 6 classes in Mississippi. In Alabama, they required 21. I had 20 hours. And so I was 1 hour short. But I've been short all my life. See,
Chalk it
but
up.
yeah. Anyway, they they started that program where you could take that praxis test, that shows it's basically just a content knowledge test, and you could get certified if you had the content knowledge, no matter what your background was otherwise. So anyway, that's how I ended up being a science teacher. I was certified in Mississippi. After 2 years of teaching experience in Alabama, you could take the praxis in a content area. And so I took the general science praxis and passed that, and got my general science certification in Alabama. And so from that point
Can
on, I
you
taught
make
science.
can you make bombs?
Okay, this sounds like a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my kind of
no,
science. Let's make
no.
something explosive.
Well, I mean, it's not hard to make things explode, honestly, if you think about it. But
Yes.
nevertheless, but no, that's how I ended up teaching science. But I was always afraid because I had so many Spanish credits, because I had originally intended to try to do an advanced degree in history, which requires foreign language. And so, anyway, that being said, I kept thinking, because we lost our Spanish teacher like my 4th or 5th year, and I thought, they know my resume. They're gonna ask me about taking that Spanish praxis. And I thought, Lord, please don't, please don't. I thought, I went to school to teach history. Last thing I want to do is teach Spanish and science all day. Like, after going to teach history, it's like, give me a break. So they never asked, and I was okay with that.
I had a good preacher friend that when he was a gym teacher for, the health and gym teacher for, oh man, like 20 years. And he moved to the high school and he became I can't remember what it's called, you might know, where all of the kids that are foreign, like, Spanish or French or whatever, that don't know English, they go into that class and he helps them understand, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
they
there's
pick
different
up.
things. Sometimes they just have like support structures in place. They actually have ESL, what's called ESL classes, a lot of
I
times,
think that
English as
might
your second
be
language.
I
But
think that might have
generally,
been what it was, something
yeah,
like that.
generally the people that teach those have to also know the native language of those that they're
Yeah,
teaching.
see, he didn't. He got through into it. He didn't know the native languages,
Oh man,
but it was a class where it was like he had to help them figure out what they were doing, basically.
right.
And he hated it. And I'm like, totally I can
Yeah.
totally understand, like,
It's a
this is
tough
supposed to
spot.
be it
Tough
is a
spot to be
tough
put
spot.
in. And I'm telling you, people, educators, it's like there's two sides. It's like, I feel like when you're an educator out in regular society, people that aren't tied to it somehow, there's not much middle ground in people's opinions. You've
Right.
got like the greatest cheer squad, like on one side, right, that support you, cheer you on,
Yep.
respect, appreciate, all these things. And then there's this huge divide between that and everybody that thinks that everyone that's a teacher is like the most horrible, not doing their job, don't know anything, all this stuff. And it's like, it's a really weird spot. But I think sometimes on both sides, sometimes people just don't realize the kind of situations that we sometimes get thrown into, and we do the
Yep.
best we can. I mean, um, it's like, I taught and I passed. It's not that I didn't know this. I mean, I I know chemistry pretty well, believe it or not, but I didn't take but one chemistry class in college, and I took high school chemistry, and then I studied my rear end off to teach chemistry as a high school teacher. And I went to all kinds of trainings and conferences where I was surrounded by people who concentrated, their concentration of their education was in those areas, and I learned tons from them. And so, I determined myself, that I was going to if I was going to do it, I was going to do it well. I wasn't
Right.
asked, do you want to do this? I was told, hey, since you're general science and we don't have anybody with physical science, you get to do chemistry. Congratulations. You know? And so
Mm.
if
It's
like I
like
said,
asking the
sometimes we
Ripper to
don't
do
get to
sheet.
choose.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't get to make those choices. But you know, what people don't see a lot of times is, and I'm not saying that for me, I'm not saying, hey, look at me, look what all I did, but that's just an example. Like I'm just one of many. There's some that don't want to ever do it again, and they will absolutely go in there and do the worst job they can, so they'll take it away from them before they have a problem.
Oh
But
my goodness.
by far, 99% of people I ever knew in education, if something like that happens to them, they bust their tail to do everything they can to do as good a job as they possibly can. And it's not easy, I mean, it's not
I
that
wouldn't want
part's
to do it.
not easy. That's not fun.
I wouldn't want to do it. I'll just
I
say
mean,
that.
I
Wouldn't want to do
I
it.
can't tell you how many hours I stayed up that first year just reading and working problems and reading and working problems. And I mean, making sure that when I stood up in front of the kids, that they weren't going to question whether or not Mr. Terry knew what he was doing. I
Right.
wasn't going to get up there and be like, "Oh man, you know what? Just skip this one. We don't know how to do it." I mean, I did not want that to happen. And with the resources we have through internet and YouTube and stuff, I mean, uh, I got books and solution manuals and problem solving guides. And I went to work. I worked harder that year for that class than probably I worked on any college class I ever took.
Wow.
I mean, it was a lot of work, but I only had to do it one time, and I mean, the things I had to teach, I felt confident. I knew very, very well. I'd have put my knowledge and my ability up against anyone else that I worked with or went to conferences with later in my career. I
Right.
wasn't intimidated at all.
We had an interesting thing happen with our education system here too this week. The school board met, and boy, I'm telling you, local politics are probably the worst politics.
Yeah,
I don't care if you're a Trumper or a Biden guy or whatever. Local politics are probably the most cutthroat politics there are. But anyway, so our school board voted not to rehire our superintendent. Well, you know what that means. There's like 70
man,
million people all of a sudden that live here and show up and they start throwing a fit. I'm one of those guys. Now, this is just common sense to me. I withhold judgment until I know all the facts. I ain't
right,
going to go in and be like, you did wrong or he was wrong or, whatever. Like, no, no, thank you. And even when I know the whole story, most of the time I withhold my judgment just because I don't like getting in the middle of that stuff. But man, you talk about stirring up a stink. Like there is people around here complaining both ways now that yeah, he should have been not rehired, and there are other ones that are saying well, he should have been rehired. Man, I'm telling you, like local politics is
yeah.
throat,
And I
cutthroat.
think it's because the more localized, the more it scales down, the larger volume of people have some kind of personal connection, personal
Yeah,
relationship, personal knowledge. They've shook hands, they've had a conversation, they grew up in the community together, they know their uncle or their aunt, their cousin, their daughter, their son, whatever, you
yep.
have all those things that come into play. And it makes it more personal. I mean, it can't not, it just can't not make it more personal. Um,
Well, ours has been through like it's getting kind of a bad track record. Our school board, and it's all new school board. Like almost all of them are new. Besides, I think two of them that's been on it a little while. So it's
mhm.
kind of hard to blame them because they're all new. But we've went through like, gosh, I want to say like 8 or 10 superintendents in the last 10 years, 15 years. So it don't look real good. Like either we just have horrible judgment in who we pick,
Yeah,
or we're just really not satisfied with something. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a problem.
right.
What it is, I'm not sure because I don't follow it that closely because we
Yeah.
homeschool. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's just an ugly situation, period.
I feel like a lot of times, especially if performance slash scores with testing and things like that are not maybe where a community or an area like where you want them to be, people aren't satisfied. I feel like they expect a miracle almost. Like we're going to elect this guy, hire this guy. Ours are elected. I mean, some districts in Alabama they're elected, some they're hired. But we're going to elect this new person, and they're just going to hit the easy button when they assume the role, and everything's going to be
Yep.
fixed. And one thing that I've learned from my time in education, or that I learned from my time there, is that the majority of the difficulties, the problems, not all, but the majority that we face in terms of scores and things like that, it has a lot less to do with systems and structure and efforts of the teacher and things like that and programs, and a whole lot more to do with factors that are beyond our control. It's socioeconomic factors. And that's not making excuses. That just makes the job. It means that we
Yeah,
have to work harder to find solutions to those problems. But those are not
absolutely.
things that you can simply introduce a new program of study or introduce a new concept and it fix it. You can't a new style of
Right.
that's not enough. It takes more than that. And you know, I know in our area, community building is probably the most important thing that takes place. The relationships that you do form, not only not the political side, but with parents and community members, and even with the students to a degree, because it's tough, man. It's a lot harder than people think it is. If it was easy to impact test scores and student performance, if there was a simple solution that could be bottled and sold or printed in a book, everybody would be doing it, and there would be no more problems, because nobody wants to go to work with pressure over their head about performance and struggling and not able to change things. I mean, nobody wants that.
That's absolutely right.
So if there was an easy way, but it's not easy.
Ready for a commercial?
Commercial
time.
What time is it almost, Caleb? It's almost time for what?
Lunch. Oh, wait, what?
No, what season?
It is tax time.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right.
Yeah.
Yes, uh-oh is right. If you need help with your taxes, My Reseller Genie's got you covered. Go check out My Reseller Genie and use code 2OldGuys. I think it's got an exclamation point on it. Anyway, it's down in the description. You will find it below, and that'll help you out a little bit. And but yeah, awesome product for sure. My Reseller Genie.
Check them out for sure. And also, we are sponsoring Planes to Profit this year. I don't think we shouted them out maybe last week or the week before. Sometimes our age gets the best of us, but it's getting real close, about 2 months out. March 28th and 29th in Omaha. That'll be with Grams and Pops, Vintage, and I believe Inked Picker Alicia is also helping again this year. So teaming up with them for that event.
I think I seen they're sold out.
Are they sold out now? Okay.
I think.
I'm not sure.
Let me. Yeah.
The last time I looked, they had a few tickets left, but I don't know. They may have finally sold them out.
I think now that I seen a reel that Teresa put out. Gosh, I spelled it wrong. I was going to look, but I'm pretty sure they sold out. If not, it's within a couple. Let's see. Let me just look. I'm going to go look and see if I can buy tickets. Because it says reserve a spot. Maybe I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
I know they didn't have many. Like they didn't know. Join the wait list.
Yeah. And there's always people that can't come last minute, stuff like that. So,
so and it looks like they're sold out.
So what's going on April 25th to the 27th, brother?
That is none other than the Nashville meetup. And that is hosted by Ray Nashville Flipper. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Angie Resells is helping him, or they're doing that together. But yeah, that, man, I wish I could go.
Yeah.
But just like last year, Ray has planned it right around my son's birthday. So it really throws a wrench. Logan's birthday is right around when they're doing that. So it just totally is done up for me being able to get away for a couple of days. But nonetheless, they've had a really good response to their Facebook posts about it. They've got a lot of people already planning to go and booking planes, or not planes, but hotels, and coming in for that. So that's going to be a good event too. If you can, go check that out too.
Mm-hmm. And it's a 3-day event, because I think on the last day, on Sunday, Ray last year, he invited everyone that came to stay over Sunday and go to church with him at his local church there in Nashville that he attends. And then they go eat lunch afterwards. And so I think they're doing that again this year. And I thought that was a great thing, great outreach, and we talk about building relationships a lot and things like that. I mean, to me, there's nothing like the fellowship of worshiping together with people that are believers and friends of yours. And I love all the guys and people out there that I've met. I'm not knocking anybody, but that's just a special thing to me. So glad for that. Hope they have a good one. I'd like to go too. I doubt it's going to happen. I mean, something may change. There's still, a couple months to go. And if I get a chance to, I may there's no tickets to buy for his. So, I mean, I may crash the party. I don't see Omaha working out for me this year. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not wishing anything. I'm just saying my situation is literally, it's day to day. So we just don't know.
You mean. I totally know what you mean.
Here's one. How about this? I know you just got your mini split going, right? Well, the mini split in the my house. Okay, so I added on a garage and a room in the back and back porch area some years back to my house, and for that part of the house, rather than replacing my HVAC and having it extended to cover that area, I had a mini split installed. Well, my mini split quit this weekend. Now
Oh man.
I've got the fireplace, right, the little wood heater that I use, and so I can keep it warm for now, and for the next month and a half, 2 months, that's going to be
Yeah.
fine. But come March in this part of the country, you're going to have some days it gets pretty warm. So
Yes, sir. You
March and
sure are.
April, it might be 50 degrees and it might be 85 degrees. You never know. So, uh, but anyway, so I called about that, and hopefully I'll find out something. Hope it's not bad. They give me a code, said it was, I don't know, something about the compressor slash synchronization or something. And they say it's very hard to get parts for them. That's the big issue. You can't get parts after they're 7 or 8 years old. So,
Yep, that's
I
not good.
don't know.
And it's funny, like back in the day, when me and Tanya first got married, we bought our second house, and we started having trouble with the air unit. And I was like, great, this air unit's broke or whatever. Well, I got to looking at it. And you know how old that thing was?
No telling.
23 years old. 23 years old. And it was repairable. We actually got it back to running for a little while, but it finally kicked the bucket completely, and we got a new one. Well, the other day, we sold our old house to her cousin. They were having trouble out of the unit that we bought 6 years ago. And I'm like, this is crazy. They're just not building stuff the same way. So then a few days after that, my neighbor next door who lives in Knoxville, but they come up here usually on the weekends, every couple of weekends, whatever. They're retired. They just kind of go back and forth. He calls me, and I didn't get his call, and I tried to call him right back, and he didn't answer. And I look over, and the lights are on. So they're home over here, and I'd missed his call, and he'd missed my call. So I just run over there real quick, check on him, and his heat's out, like out. It's not even a year old.
Wow.
Like, you've got to be kidding me. Well, with my
Well,
limited knowledge of that kind of stuff, because I have done a little bit of HVAC, and I know a few basic things you can try before you have to start repairing on them. So I went around and done a few of those things, and we got it running. It kicked right back on. It probably just threw like a rollout switch or something like that. We got it right back on, running fine. And I just kept a check on his house. But I was thinking, man, this is so crazy to me how 40 years ago, the way stuff was built, it was built to last 25 years.
yeah.
Now, I was talking to my HVAC guy, and he said they build these things to maybe last 10 years. He said 10 years, if you get 10 years out of them, you better be thankful. He
Yep.
said after that, you might as well replace it. And I'm
And
like,
they
that is
mostly, and they mostly don't want them to be repaired. You know what I mean? I mean, the way they're making a lot of them, they're not really made to be worked on a lot. And they
no, they
quit
want to sell you a
manufacturing.
new one.
Yeah. And they'll quit manufacturing parts a lot of times for a particular model, before the life of it runs out. And so it could be a simple fix, but you can't get that capacitor. You can't get that,
I know.
compressor. You can't get whatever it is, and, but yeah,
Yep.
what you were just saying about working on, a lot of times just, and I'm the world's worst at this, like doing the regular maintenance and stuff. I don't do any on mine. My main unit, my main heat pump, it'll be 20 years old in 2 more years. And
Oh, wow.
right after I had it put in, like within the first year, it had a leak, like one of the valves or something was leaking, like letting Freon out. It had a hole in one of the lines, and they came out
Yep.
as under warranty. They fixed that, topped the Freon back off, and since that day, like since then, one time they've come out and checked it when it was giving me a little bit of trouble for some reason, and I don't know what was going on with it that day, but it hadn't done that again. They topped the Freon off since they were here. That's the only thing I've had done on it. Besides, right after I had purchased it, never had it cleaned,
Wow.
service, maintenance, nothing. I mean, really, I've neglected the thing, but it's run nearly
Yeah.
20 years without having to put money into it. And, but I was going to
Well,
say what you were talking about. Sometimes it's something simple like an ant bed, ants build in it or something, and it
yeah.
can cause it to overheat or something, and it just don't work right. Once it flips, was it the breakers or something like that? I mean, it's it can cause it not heat or not cool. So
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize, like with yours where it had leaked a little bit of Freon, if that gets low enough, it drops the freeze point of what's left to try to keep cooling, and your unit will eventually just freeze completely over. The
Yep.
coils will be closing over, and then it can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sitting there spinning, blowing warm air into your house.
Yep.
So yeah, this stuff's very temperamental, and what little bit of work I have done on them, I would rather replace one than work on it probably,
Yep.
unless it's a really simple capacitor, the board, or something like that. But I mean, it's usually not simple anymore. All that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's crazy.
So
Did you happen to see? Or you? I don't know. You told me. I don't know if you told me you've seen this or not, but I wanted to read this disclaimer that I got when I was packing this morning, because I thought this was just wild that they have to tell people this on the eBay packing screen.
mhm.
There must be some sort of problem. But anyway, it says UPS ground saver disclaimer. UPS ground saver packages dropped off to USPS locations will not be delivered by USPS and may be destroyed. And it says packages can be dropped off at over 78,000 locations, including yada, 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 all these places. And I was thinking, how many people accidentally select UPS ground saver? And because it says USPS down towards the bottom, because it does eventually get dropped off after UPS does its route or whatever, it'll get dropped off and USPS will finish the delivery. They'll finish out, that. And I was thinking, talking to you about it, I was like, how many people accidentally drop that off at the wrong place? And I know it has to happen because at our post office, they have a big orange sign on the drop box that says, we do not accept UPS and FedEx. It actually says that right there. And I'm like, how many people are dropping off their UPS and their FedEx at the post office?
But look, it's got to be, and I think it's, and I don't mean this ugly at all. Somebody that's listening to us may have done this before. I mean, honestly, if you're printing off labels that are mixed and you throw them all in one bag, if you're not careful, you could end up dropping one on the desk anyway if you don't keep them sorted on your way. But I
Right.
think for the most part, that's just an error or an oversight, on our part when we handle so many packages and use all those services. But I was going to say, I don't, unless people are just like getting started, it would have to be almost in ignorance. And I don't mean some people
Yeah.
think it's like an ugly word, or like that's offensive. And I used to tell my students to say, ignorant is not an ugly word. Ignorant means that we haven't yet learned something. And I tell
Right.
them there's a lot of things that I'm ignorant of. There's things I know nothing about that if you classified my knowledge of it, I would be in ignorance of that thing. That is not, it don't have to be something that we use in a hateful or mean way. It's a word that
Absolutely.
has a legitimate definition. And I think some people, maybe not necessarily resellers, even though they might have sold something. I know you talked about your early days on eBay. Just I listed an item and it sold. A lot of people have that story. I listed this item and it sold. I listed this. But if you're doing that and you're just like, oh, well, that's cheaper, then there may be this concept that if I'm mailing anything, no matter what the sticker is I put on it, that I can drop it off anywhere where mail is serviced and it'll be taken care of. Maybe there's
Yeah.
that notion. And that's
Yeah.
just lack of knowledge. It's not someone's inability to comprehend the difference. It's just, I think maybe that probably applies where there's a lot of people that dabble and they just don't know. Maybe they go to pirate ship, and they're getting a label over there to send something to a family member. And it's like, oh, well, I could send this, UPS and I'll save $5, so let me do that instead. And then they print the label, but I'll just drop it off the post office and they'll take care of it. So in my
Yeah.
mind, I hope that that's what's going on. I would hope that none of our seasoned reseller friends are, mixing that up because like we said earlier, when you brought this up the first time, no dedicated USPS label has FedEx or UPS on it. The only labels that will have UPS or FedEx referenced on the labels that we get are labels that are meant for and intended to be dropped off for FedEx or UPS. Now, the ones that are the ground, like the cheaper rates, I don't know where exactly it happens. I'm assuming it's at a distribution center nearby where the people live. Like if it's coming to Alabama, it might get dropped off at Birmingham by UPS or by FedEx. And then it's scanned through the USPS tracking from there and distributed to the, individual post office and the final destination by USPS, but they've got the deal worked out with them, not with us as individuals. So,
Right.
there's a process for that. I think we all know that, but like, surely it's not us. Surely it's not on purpose. Like, but I'm
Final.
saying that, talking about, let me throw this in there real quick. So here's a little joke, little dad joke.
Oh,
So how do you politely tell someone they're stupid? You just say, Wilson's been chasing you your whole life and it just can't seem to catch you. Oh, it's a genuine dad joke. Yeah. But literally that's the way it feels sometimes, like I've been there, but hopefully that's not the problem.
well, I ordered a deck of cards online, but it's been 2 weeks and they haven't got here yet. So I contacted the seller and they assured me they were dealing with it. Mine's bad too.
Oh man. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Horrible
But
dad jokes here for you all the
it
time,
is.
folks.
It is. So
Uh,
what about you mentioned UPS and FedEx. What are your feelings overall about FedEx? Because that's something I've been kind of, I've used it some here lately. I used to didn't use it at all, but it's harder for me right now. Like I don't have a local place in like in Barry where I can drop off UPS stuff. So if it's a larger package that's too expensive to send like lengthwise, right, where I'm going to get that extra surcharge by USPS,
yeah.
then FedEx is my next best option. But something I've been noticing is that even on some of my simple shipments, like the poly bags, like that have just a clothing item in them, some of those here lately have been like $1 to $1.50 less to ship FedEx versus using the post office. And my dilemma is this: that I've heard a lot of negative stuff about FedEx and their like the fulfillment issue because of the way it's run. And so I've been hesitant, and I've taken the loss, so to speak, knowing that I'm leaving $6 or $7 on the table by not using them a few times. But that adds up, man. That adds up to a lot. If it's like $8 to $10 a week every week or more all year long, that's a lot.
It is, and I've had so many issues with FedEx upcharging my shipping that I've quit using them pretty much
Yeah,
altogether. They have literally cost me at least $500 this year, not this year, this last year. And the major one was that 200 and something $300 blow mold deal that I got back that I never got my money back on that. And it's almost impossible to get your money back on it after they do an adjustment because eBay is generally going to side with the carrier over one seller. That's just the way it is because they deal with that carrier way more than they deal with one seller. But I had that happen on so many things FedEx. Actually, almost everything I sent FedEx was getting some sort of adjustment, and it usually wasn't to my good. It was usually to my bad, to my hurt. So I have stayed away from them. And yeah, I've had a few times, probably say maybe 20 times since I quit 3 months ago or whatever. I probably lost $1 or two here and there. So over the course of that time, it's probably cost me $40, $50, something like that to use the post office or use UPS. But I've only had adjustments a couple of times, maybe 6 times since then, either on UPS or post office. And it's usually just been a couple of dollars, a
yeah,
dollar
yeah,
50 cents. And it's been up and down. If it's, you didn't, you charged yourself too much. And this time you didn't charge enough, so it's all weighed out equally. But man, they did a lot of damage to me with that one, which was major. And I made absolutely sure that I did it right. And I've heard the argument about, well, the cubic, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I understand that. But eBay should something on their system that when I enter the accurate dimensions and weight, they need to account for all that cubic stuff
yeah,
because that's part of it. And if they don't, that's not my fault. I put in accurate information. So I
yeah.
pretty much walked away from FedEx
I mean, I feel
mostly.
like eBay is probably doing their job on it. I think it still has something to do with just the way maybe the way FedEx is run.
It's
I had a
some. I can't say it's eBay. Yeah, somebody's doing something that's not jiving.
yeah.
Somebody's not jiving with somebody else.
And I think sometimes it's just I don't know how they're able to get it. I think they just get away with it. It's almost as if what it feels like to me is this, because I've had some smaller packages like soft pack stuff. I've seen a few things just kind of testing
Yep.
it out. I've probably with FedEx, I've probably done 10 items, in the last 3 or 4 months, just kind of, and it's usually lower dollar stuff that I could easily ship USPS, but just kind of testing the waters. And I've had a couple of adjustments, but there weren't room for it to be a big adjustment. But I'm talking about
Right.
like a poly bag. Like I always over measure on those because it doesn't really even affect the cost of shipping at all. I just add an
And
inch both ways, add an inch. Yeah, I
how do
mean,
you mess up a poly bag? Like,
it's just about impossible.
yep,
So if you've been doing it any time, I've never got an adjustment from the post office, from USPS on it. But anyway, I did get an adjustment on one of those, but I felt like this is what happened. I don't know for this for a fact, but there was very little detail in it. There's nothing referenced about size. I honestly just think for whatever reason, the discount that I was supposed to get for using them, like the negotiated discount from eBay, it's almost as if that's what got added back because it adjusted by about $3, which made it about $1 more, $1.50 more than using the post office instead. And I was only using it because it was like, a dollar and something less, than using you. So
yep,
it's almost like they withdrew the shipping discount that was supposed to be guaranteed. There was no note on it that said it was too long, too short, too heavy, none of those things. And
yep,
I wonder if that's happening sometimes, like if they're doing that and just getting away with it. Like maybe like you said, since it's contract, I don't know how all that works. I mean, I'm assuming when it's scanned, like when I drop them off at the dollar store, it's scanned by the people that work there. So they have no incentive. But once it's in, like it's in their system, like I wonder, I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. What I'm trying to figure out is, like, in my mind, I don't know how this works. I've never researched it. So if somebody knows, please tell us in the comments. Like, I'm wondering with these contractors, like when they bring it back to their facility, like how does that work? Or do they go straight to a FedEx facility to drop that off from their trucks? Like if they actually have to go back and process the packages a second time to do weights and measurements themselves before they take it on to, like an actual FedEx facility, then are they the ones that are sometimes doing that? Because when the discount is applied, they're losing money too because they get paid per package based on the value of the shipping on the packages. So are they just here and there, just, every third or fourth one, just, something they can do to get some of that discount back? I don't know. Makes you wonder though if they're manipulating the system because you got
makes
that middleman
sense.
issue with FedEx that you don't have with UPS or the postal service.
Yep.
Something happens. Something happens.
Something definitely happens. I don't know what it is, but something definitely happens. Let's read a comment or two. You want to?
Let's
Because
do it.
I'm getting hungry. I got to go eat lunch. I haven't ate lunch yet. I'm gonna read Carter's retro quest. Our good buddy Will. We was talking about bread and butter last week a little bit, and he said sometimes your bread gets stale and the butter molds. You don't always get blessed with those big ticket items and fast sell through rates. Do you quit? No. You list what you got to get a few bucks and you go find fresh bread and butter. And
Yep.
he said, I've seen people say, well, if you're not finding the good stuff, you're not going to the right places, go further. That has a lot of truth to it. But also, sometimes people can't go for some reasons or another, and they have to have a different plan. Stay consistent ranks up there with some of the best advice ever. And it does, just exactly what you've been talking about. You can't always run and do and go and hit the yard sales and the thrift stores like you want to. So sometimes you have to do the best you can. And that's the best thing about eBay to me is it works for what you've got, like what Chris always said, sell what you find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Just
thinking the
sell the
same
best
thing that I
things
could
you can
hear
find.
OSP in that comment.
Yep.
The influence there. So,
Yep. Exactly. Got
I want to
connection
read
in.
Happy Picker's comment. She said, so glad that God hears our prayers and the pipes became a non-issue. And you're not the only one. That was a call I was glad to make. Don't worry about the pipes. We're good now. But
Yep.
but I
Exactly.
appreciate all the positive comments from different ones. Vintage Codger, Miss Lachey, different ones that commented about that. God truly is good, and I appreciate
Yep.
big things or little things. It's not always something I would that seems like a big thing sometimes, but just little things. I'm thankful
Absolutely.
for all the things, not just the big ones that he does for me, because he sure is good to me. Hey,
Absolutely.
what about those picks we had for this weekend? Well, we're really on top of it, ain't we?
Oh, son, I wasn't even gonna talk. I had it on my list, but I'm like, you know what?
Golly.
I'm just gonna skip it because I'm not
55
even
points
sure.
the Eagles scored.
Yeah,
Those turnovers killed the Commanders, man. I
I
mean,
didn't get
go
to watch it.
driving down. Well, driving down, I watched the first well till I left for church Sunday night, but
Yeah,
the turnovers early in the game, driving down and only getting a field goal where the Eagles were getting touchdowns and then turning the ball over. I mean, right there at the half, they had a chance to kind of see some of the momentum, and the Eagles wound up scoring. They kicked the ball off and they fumbled on the kickoff return. You know what I mean? It was like they had two turnovers there close together, and the Eagles scored. I think it was 21 points, 21 or 28. The last time I had looked before I left, I don't know if they got more off the interception or not. They did have an interception later in the game. But I know they had scored 3 times off the turnovers at one point. And I mean, it really, you can't afford to make that many mistakes. 4 turnovers in a game that once the teams are that good, you're that far,
yeah,
about forget it.
yeah. You're lucky if you can get 1 or 2 turnovers and still win when you're in that kind of a high
Yeah.
profile situation. But that's good experience, I think, for Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels. He can really grow from that. He got
Absolutely.
to go to the NFC, I believe it was NFC championship game, and he got to
It
play
was.
against an excellent team, and that can only help him learn from your mistakes and come back next year and better, man. Because he
So
had
we
a
got the
great year.
rematch,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Rematch from 2 years ago, wasn't it? Year
What the
before
Eagles?
last, the Eagles played. That's when they lost by like 2 or 3, wasn't it, to the Chiefs? So it's
Might be. Yeah, I can't
yeah,
remember.
it was year before last. It was 49ers last year with no quarterback. Remember, they only lost by like
Yes,
3 last year with no quarterback, and
I
then
remember. That's my
the year
team. I remember.
before it's just a couple of points. Yeah, but but yeah, the man that game too. That was some more game. Chiefs and Bills. I didn't get to see a big portion of it again because of when it started in church, but got home and watched out the last of it. And golly, man, I'm telling you, it
It's
just
good.
yeah,
It didn't
and
disappoint. But
yeah,
what about that interception or that reception that wasn't an
yeah,
interception, that was a completion? That right there had me. I didn't see it live. I just watched it
game
back, and I'm
changer. Yeah,
I'm
game
like, how
changer. It
can you
really is.
call that? How do you call that a reception or an interception? That ball hit the ground. Nobody had control. It was in 2 different hands. Like that was
It,
nothing. That should have been called off.
the crazy thing is those calls have become like just ordinary. Like they don't really miss those. Like they are very.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a really good job overall. Officiating crews do for the most part on those types of calls, especially when they have an obvious camera angle that shows that. But they sure
Well,
that was questionable.
that call right there just fueled all those people out there that say the refs are on the Chiefs side. That call right there just gave them a lot of ammo. I'm not saying the refs are on the Chiefs side, but boy, that call was questionable. It's kind of
You,
like, was it 2 or 3 years ago when the Saints had the pass down the sidelines and it was obvious intercept or pass interference and they didn't call it. It's
yeah,
that kind of thing, like dude wraps him up like while the ball's halfway up the field,
yeah,
takes him down and it's like incomplete pass. What?
yeah.
You know, but I mean the Chiefs are not going to just be able to walk in and waltz through to the Super Bowl.
No, I
They're going to
think
play
it's
a good team.
and who knows? It's hard to bet against that. They just always even. I mean, they've done this so much in the last 5 years where they have had losses. I mean, like when they lost to
Yep,
Brady and the Bucks. I mean, but
yep,
it's like for the most part though, it's like they've just found a way. They rarely have just absolutely blown opponents off the field, like in the later in the playoffs, Super Bowl. But they always find a way to win. They can go in not looking like on paper you would think that in this game coming up with the Eagles, it's almost like it reminds me of the Cowboys in the 90s, when it's like when they were headed to the Super Bowl, it was like, and the 49ers the same way. Those teams in the 90s that both those sent, that was the Super Bowl. The NFC title game was the Super Bowl every year. And I
yep,
mean, whoever was coming from the AFC pretty much could expect to lose by 3 to 4 touchdowns. And it wasn't even
yep.
going to be competitive after halftime, most of them. And I mean,
Yep.
it was just that lopsided. And that's the way it almost feels on paper when you look at things, look at that Eagles offense. But the difference is these Chiefs, man, they just always find a way to stay in it. They always find a way to somehow get in. It's like they got a psychological advantage, or maybe it is the refs. Who knows?
Yeah, Taylor Swift. That's what it is.
Oh,
Taylor
man,
Swift
let's not
has
talk about
cast her
that.
curse upon every other team.
Oh, man.
Okay, I gotta go because I'm
Okay.
starving.
You're not starving, brother. It's called dieting. Some call it a
I'm not
fast.
starving. Big boy is hungry. That's what we're gonna say. Big boy is hungry.
That's how us big boys get to be big boys. We stay hungry all the time.
I like my meat and taters. All right.
Hey, I hear you.
Here's how we're going to end the show today. Ready for this? Big Poppa Path is your hookup. Holler if you
Oh
hear
my
me.
goodness. Lord help us. I regret that.
Big Poppa Pass. I'm gonna put out stickers and all kinds of stuff now. Big Poppa
Jeez,
Pass.
man. Hey, what about our sell of the week before we go right quick? You trying to
can't.
avoid that?
What are you talking? No, I had a decent one. I didn't have many, but I had one.
I can't believe you. I felt like you're trying to step around it there on me.
Well, I had a couple of decent sales, but then for the most part, it's been nothing. But I sold a vintage Ricoh TLS 40i camera with a Raikonon lens, I think is how you say that, for $80. So not bad.
Nice.
An old camera, $80. I give a couple bucks for. I'll do that all day, and it sold relatively quick within a couple days.
Yeah, I had some decent ones. I had this ain't my best. I want to throw this out there. Remember, I told you Casey had listed some stuff. Well, one of the pair of pants that she put on the jeans sold for $60, so that was good.
Nice.
Yeah, I was kind of glad she got around to doing that for me since I still hadn't done it. But I sold one of the book sets that I had got from that last buy from the guy I've been buying multiple times from, all the different media, especially the CDs. But it was the Time Life Lost Civilizations complete set of 24. When I got those home, like I bought several sets there that day. I got them home when I was wiping them down, getting ready to list them. There was one of them that I think must have been on his desk and might have had coffee spilled or something. I noticed the pages are wrinkled. I thought, oh man. So I got on eBay and got to looking, and I found one for $7 free shipping. I ordered it, put it back with the set, sold it for $109.87. The set.
Nice.
Now it was a 40-pound box. It was a heavy box. So shipping wasn't cheap, but I didn't have to pay the shipping. So, and then I sold a Behringer mini EQ that I sold it for $70, and I sold a pair of shoes for $80. A pair of Bedstew. Bedstew's a good brand, women's shoes if you find them. So,
I've
had
never
some
heard
good
of
sales. Had some other decent sales too.
I hate shoes.
Yeah, well, shoes. I mean, when it's in Goodwill for $7 and they don't even need to be wiped down, they look like brand new, and you can list them for $80. They're going home with me every time. I don't care. They're going home.
I still hate shoes.
It's not a burden, but it's not a burden to put, best offer price, $80. That's not a burden when you're paying less than 10. Like,
right.
I don't love them either. I'm just saying but that makes it not a burden. That just does. When they're $15 and $20 and you pay $3 and $4, that gets to be hard sometimes. Get yourself motivated to do it. But
yeah, I don't know. I just have
sales in a hurry.
I have a terrible time with shoes and clothes. Now, I sold a pair of pants the other day for $25. So I'm not saying I don't, but these still had all the tags on them, and I didn't have to measure anything. I just threw all that information out there. Somebody bought them. If I have to do all this measuring stuff, count me out. I don't like doing it at all. But for everything else,
part of it.
For everything else, Big Poppa Pass has your hookup. Okay, for everything else, not for clothes, not for shoes.
Oh man,
shoes occasionally, but not much. But every now and then, Big Papa's got you hooked up. That's for sure.
Maybe I'm actually here. Big old Poppa Pass.
Big old Pop. That's not funny. I'm actually sitting here right now looking for the chainmail headgear that he wore to the ring to make the thumbnail with. I'm doing that right now. I'm going to have me. I'm going to be all decked out. Yeah, this is going to be the best thumbnail ever. You just count on it. But when I type in chainmail, I find a lot of letters and stuff like that. So, hey, there's some. That might work. That might work. No, that looks stupid. I'll figure it out, though. Don't you worry.
You said it looked stupid?
It ought to work. It ought to be good.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, it's going to do it.
Yeah. Hopefully we said something that entertained you or helped you win.
Yeah, probably not, but we'll hope. All right.
We'll give another.
That's
Give it
old
another
guys.
go next week.
Yeah. We're going to see you later. Thanks for watching, guys. Until
take care, guys.
next time. This has been episode 84, and we will see you next week right here on Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast.